In Crimea, a fire engulfs an oil depot after two Ukrainian drones crash. Authorities say no casualties are reported. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Nina Richielago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. starts his 5-day state visit to the United States. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. lauds workers for the country's soaring economy. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky preparing for spring counteroffensive against Russia. U.S. President Joe Biden and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend the Pacific Islands Forum. And Philippine Arena, home of world-class concerts. Let's take a closer look at President Marcos Jr.'s 5-day official visit to the United States. J.D. Mahinay has the details.
President Ferdinand Marcos arrives in the United States around 5 in the morning Philippine time with one mission in mind: to strengthen ties with America. For 5 days, the President will meet with U.S. President Joe Biden in the White House and attend the expanded bilateral meetings with other state officials. President Marcos is expected to promote the Philippine economic agenda along with negotiations with American businessmen.
My visit to the United States, and more especially my meeting with President Joe Biden, is essential to advancing our national interest and strengthening that very important alliance. One of my priorities for this visit is to push for greater economic engagement, particularly through trade and investment and science, technology, and innovation cooperation between the United States and the Philippines. I intend to speak and find opportunities in the semiconductor industry, critical minerals, renewable and clean energy, including nuclear and infrastructure projects that will improve our digital telecommunication systems and facilitate sustainability efforts to address climate change.
Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez, notes that America shows how significant the diplomatic ties between the two countries are.
They really would like to get a chance to meet the president because they see him as a progressive president. They see him as somebody who knows the value of our relationship, the result of which will be something that will redound to our country, our peace and security, economic security, and most important of all, economic prosperity for everyone.
J.D. Mahinay for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. pays tribute to workers this Labor Day, highlighting their unwavering service as a significant contribution to Philippines' development. Vin Pascua reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. lauds Filipino workers this Labor Day, saying they are essential in sustaining the Philippines' soaring economy. To celebrate Labor Day 2023, Marcos first visited Kadiwa ng Pangulo para sa mga manggagawa at the SMX Convention Center in Pasay City. 150 businesses and sellers from different government agencies joined the activity. Marcos says Kadiwa stores will always offer lower prices of basic commodities to support workers and their families. Kadiwa centers now amount to 300 nationwide. These centers seek to ensure a stable price and supply of food in areas where poor families live.
Nandito rin ang Kadiwa ng Pangulo para sa mga manggagawa na ating napatunayan na sa kakayahan nitong gawing mas mababa ang presyo ng bilihin at tulungan ang kapakanan ng mga magsasaka, mangingisda at mga SMSEs o maliliit na negosyo. Iisa lang naman ang ating hangarin. Ito ay ang magkaroon ng isang mas magandang buhay, mas matatag na kinabukasan para sa ating lahat. Kip-kip ko ang lahat ng mga ito, magkaisa tayo at sama-samang maglakbay tungo sa isang bagong bukas, isang bagong Pilipinas na tigib sa biyaya at pag-asa.
The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, also offered financial assistance to 1,400 beneficiaries. The Labor Day celebration also featured a job fair of 82,000 job vacancies. DOLE also raffled 3 house and lots for all those who joined the Labor Day celebration. Marcos says the welfare of Filipino workers is his administration's priority.
At hindi rin natatapos sa araw na ito lamang ang tulong na hatid natin sa ating mga manggagawa. Ang mga ito ay ilan lamang sa mga inisyatiba na ginagawa ng inyong pamahalaan upang mapabuti ang kalagayan ng ating mga manggagawa.
Marcos also urged the private sector to join his administration in building the gains of good governance and labor initiatives to secure the lives of workers. Marcos also approved an executive order creating an interagency committee that will facilitate the resolution of labor cases in the country. Marcos says this is his gift for the Filipino workers. Signed by Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, EO number 23 reinforces and protects freedom of association and the right to organize workers. The Executive Secretary will chair the interagency body while the DOLE Secretary will be the Vice Chairman. Vin Pascua for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Various regional tripartite wages and productivity boards, or RTWPBs, are currently reviewing 10 wage hike petitions. According to the Department of Labor and Employment, or Department of Labor and Employment Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma, these wage hike petitions are mostly seeking across-the-board increases. The RTWPBs in National Capital Region, Calabarzon, Western Visayas, and Central Visayas has yet to approve these petitions. Laguesma also reiterated that there will be no wage hike for this year's Labor Day. The secretary adds that there will be more than 70,000 job openings for the nationwide job fair today. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. instructed the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Philippine Coast Guard to identify and create a map of the country's fishing ground in the West Philippine Sea. Marcos' statements come after the near-crash incident off the Spratly Islands that took place between a Chinese and Filipino vessel. He says he already raised the issue with the Chinese government. He asserts his administration's priority is to safeguard the Philippines' maritime territory and ensure the fishing rights of Filipinos. Marcos said his government is waiting for China's feedback regarding the mapping of fishing grounds. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is not too keen on reimposing mandatory face mask wearing. Jeremiah Bonete files this report.
The Marcos administration is not keen on reimposing face mask mandates. This is despite the latest hike in COVID-19 infections. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says he prefers to ramp up vaccination efforts to stop the spread of the COVID virus. He points out that the baseline still remains low, though the nationwide positivity rate for COVID-19 has increased. Marcos says he hopes the new wave of COVID infections will not cause him to impose the mask mandate. The Department of Health, or DOH, logged 304 new cases, 527 recoveries, and 5,070 active infections on April 29. The DOH also registered a 14.8% nationwide positivity rate on Saturday. Health experts say hospital utilization remains low in the country. The DOH also advised the public to be vigilant against the spread of conjunctivitis or sore eyes. Health officials say it is one of the new symptoms of COVID-19, particularly the Omicron subvariant XBB.1.16 or Arcturus. The DOH also encourages the public to continue practicing public health standards. Jeremiah Bonete for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Ninoy Aquino International Airport, or NAIA, cancels dozens of scheduled flights due to a power outage. Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, spokesperson Erica Polonio reports around 1:05 a.m. a power outage occurred at Terminal 3. Ninoy Aquino International Airport says 46 domestic Cebu Pacific flights were canceled due to the power outage. CAAP adds that back-to-back flights from Manila to Rojas City, round trips from Manila to Davao, and inbound flights from Iloilo were also delayed. NAIA says an engineering team from Manila International Airport Authority, or MIA, and technical personnel from Meralco are now investigating the root cause of the power failure. MIA's operations personnel are now assisting the affected passengers. The first batch of repatriated Filipinos from the conflict-hit Sudan arrived in the Philippines. The government assured the evacuated Filipinos will receive financial support, transport assistance, and shelter. Madeline Villar Moratillo reports.
The 17 repatriated Filipinos from the war-torn Sudan arrived this Saturday. Among the evacuees were 8 hotel workers from Sudan. They were transported via a military evacuation flight to Athens, Greece last Friday. They arrived at Terminal 3 via flight number QR932. The other 9 Filipinos, including a baby, left Khartoum, Sudan, boarding a C-130 plane of the Saudi Royal Air Force to Jeddah. They traveled to the Philippines via flight number SV870. Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA Secretary Enrique Manalo, and other government officials welcomed the evacuees. They also gave the repatriated Filipinos some financial assistance. Aside from airport assistance and repatriation, evacuated Filipinos from Sudan will be given shelter. DFA said they are expecting about 40 Filipinos from Cairo, Egypt to arrive tomorrow. Based on DFA's data, over 600 Filipinos left Khartoum, while more than 350 OFWs are in Egypt. 45 Filipinos will also be rescued and brought to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Manalo thanked the foreign governments which extended help to Filipinos streaming out of Sudan. He also vowed to bring Filipinos home safely. The repatriation program of the Philippines is due to continuing conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and paramilitary group. Madeline Villar Moratillo for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Oil firms will slash more than 1 peso off their fuel prices by midnight. The price adjustment also marks the second consecutive week for oil price cuts. Chevron Philippines, or Caltex, says they will reduce their gasoline prices by 1 peso and 50 centavos, diesel by 1 peso and 30 centavos, and 1 peso and 40 cents for kerosene. Clean fuel will start the price rollback at the same time except for kerosene. Filipina Shell, Sea Oil Philippines, and other oil companies will cut their fuel prices by 6 a.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, consumers will have to pay more for liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG, products this May. Petron Corporation says they will add 85 centavos per kilo to their LPG. Auto LPG's price will be up by 48 centavos per liter. Solane will add 82 centavos per liter in their LPG. The price hike started at 6 a.m. today. Coming up, humanitarian aid reaches Sudan. Iran parliament fires industry minister. And Santiago Pena wins Paraguay's presidency. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Netizens, for more kada umaga updates, i-click lamang ang subscribe button at i-follow na po ang Net25 social media pages at Net25 TV.
Magandang araw, magandang araw, magandang araw, magandang araw, magandang araw, magandang araw, magandang
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. The regional director of the World Health Organization's Office for the Eastern Mediterranean, Dr. Ahmed Al-Mandari, shares the latest update on the health status in Sudan. Dr. Al-Mandari says the healthcare situation in Sudan is a disaster. He says there is a real shortage in the medical sector, specifically the medical specialists. This includes specialists in surgery and anesthesia. Al-Mandari says there is also a shortage in medical financing and medical supplies due to a lack of security and difficulty to reach the hospitals. 8 tons of humanitarian aid have been shipped to Sudan, where deadly clashes between rival forces has entered its third week. A Red Cross plane carrying volunteers and goods landed Sunday in the city port of Sudan. The supplies have come from a warehouse in the Jordanian capital of Amman. They include anesthetics, dressings, sutures, and other surgical materials, all goods that are in short supply. The medical kits have enough supplies to treat about 1,500 patients. The Red Cross is waiting for security guarantees before sending further aid to the capital of Khartoum and the city of Darfur. Only 16% of the hospitals in Khartoum are still operating. The fighting that began on April 15th has left more than 500 people dead. Thousands of others have been wounded, and tens of thousands of people have fled from their homes. The Sudanese Red Crescent says it is trying to remove bodies that have remained on the streets in the capital. In Crimea, a massive fire engulfs an oil depot after 2 Ukrainian drones crash. According to Sevastopol Governor Mikhail Razhuzhaev, the fire at the city's harbor was difficult to extinguish. Crimea Governor Sergei Aksyonov says about 4 drones were seen. Aksyonov adds 2 enemy drones attacked and ignited 4 oil tanks. 1 drone was shot down from the sky, while another was deactivated through radio electronic means. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday honored the country's border guard forces by awarding medals and wishing them success. He delivered the remarks at an unidentified military base surrounded by allies-supplied military vehicles and members of the border guard's newly formed elite Steel Border Assault Brigade. Zelensky says in his privileged speech, "Dear warriors, the main battles are coming soon. We must free our land and our people from Russian slavery." There has long been talks of a Ukrainian spring counteroffensive against invading Russian forces, but it has yet to be launched. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the counteroffensive wouldn't wait for the delivery of all promised military equipment. U.S. President Joe Biden issued an executive order on Thursday to deploy active duty reserve troops to the U.S.-American border to fight the illegal drug trade. This move authorizes Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas to take a more militaristic approach to the current health crisis. The measure is a response to the White House's declaration of a national emergency in December of 2021 regarding international drug trafficking. The president blamed drug cartels for bringing illicit drugs and precursor chemicals, as well as drug-related violence, into American communities and imposed sanctions on senior cartel figures. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has argued that the crisis killing tens of thousands of Americans per year is the result of societal weaknesses north of the border and Chinese fentanyl being shipped to North America. He criticized the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency earlier this month for infiltrating the Sinaloa cartel without his government's knowledge, warning them that such actions put Mexican and American lives in danger. U.S. President Joe Biden and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are to attend next month's summit of the 18 nations and territories of the Pacific Islands Forum. Papua New Guinea Prime Minister James Marape says that this would be a historic first for all parties involved. This future-proofing meeting by the global superpowers is a big step forward towards progress in the biggest country in the Pacific. Biden's stopover would be the first visit by a sitting U.S. president to the resource-rich but largely undeveloped country of nearly 10 million people just north of Australia. Washington has stepped up efforts to counter Beijing's growing influence in the region after China struck a security pact with the Solomon Islands last year. Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Papua New Guinea in 2018. The country is being courted by China and the U.S. and its allies as Marape seeks to boost foreign investment. Secretary of State Antony Blinken vows U.S. support for the peace process between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Yerevan and Baku are engaged in a decades-long standoff over the Nagorno-Karabakh border. Blinken says he stressed the importance of reopening the Lokchin corridor to Azerbaijan and Armenia. He also reiterated to Yerevan and Baku that direct dialogue and diplomacy is the only path to resolve their conflict. Moscow brokered a ceasefire between Azerbaijan and Armenia. They also posted peacekeepers along the Lachin corridor. Yet analysts believe Russia is focused on its special military operations in Ukraine. This in turn brought out the United States to steer Armenia and Azerbaijan's conflict. Sources say or claim that the U.S. Army Special Operations Command is carrying out drills simulating its response to a Chinese seizure of Taiwan. A news agency reports U.S. troops practiced being sent to Taiwan to help defend the island against China's offensive. Lieutenant General Jonathan Braga says their job is to prevent World War III from happening. Reports say soldiers used a concrete mock-up on the base to simulate Taipei's environment. Beijing repeatedly says Taiwan must adhere to the One China principle, insisting that the mainland will take the island by force if needed. Brazil's Congress is set to vote on legislation to curb the spread of alleged disinformation or fake news. The law would enforce strict requirements on how tech companies deal with illegal or damaging content. It also imposes punishments for groups that spread falsehoods using robots or artificial intelligence. Opposition parties and tech companies criticize the new bill. They claim that the new law may lead to censorship that can restrict fundamental rights and freedom of expression. Iran's parliament has fired the country's industry minister. Reza Fatemi Amin lost a vote of confidence that resulted in his removal. Members of parliament accused him of mismanaging the country's economy. The Islamic Republic is coping with rising inflation as prices continue to soar. International sanctions have also contributed to the country's poor economic performance. The death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini after Iran's morality police arrested her for violating the country's dress code has also sparked societal unrest. Iran has endured months of protests and a violent crackdown on dissenters. As Saudi Arabia and Iran restore ties, a senior Beijing diplomat says Chinese President Xi Jinping played a crucial role to help end the 7-year diplomatic rift. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Di says she personally persuaded the leaders of Saudi and Iran to develop a friendly relationship as neighbors. Wang adds that Beijing promotes regional stability in the Middle East, while some large countries outside the region cause long-term instability for their own self-interests, a thinly veiled dig at the United States. He also indicates that Beijing will be a fair mediator and will continue to be a promoter of peace in the Middle East. Santiago Peña wins Paraguay election after a hard-fought campaign. Peña has won Paraguay's election, returning the conservative Colorado Party to the government after a tightly contested campaign that had threatened to end its 7-decade hold on power. The 44-year-old economist and former finance minister had 42.7% of the vote, with more than 99% of ballots counted ballots counted, Peña held a more than 15-point lead over center-left rival Efrain Alegrem, a 60-year-old lawyer from the Concertacion coalition, according to the electoral body. Peña recounts that today, we are not celebrating his personal triumph, but the victory of a people who, with their vote, chose the path of social peace, dialogue, fraternity, and national reconciliation. Pyongyang leader Kim Jong-un's powerful sister, Kim Yo-jong, says the deal between Washington and Seoul will lead to more serious danger. The pact, known as the Washington Declaration, means the U.S. will deploy nuclear-armed submarines to South Korea to combat nuclear threats from Kim's government. In return, Seoul agreed to not develop its own nuclear weapons. The two countries will also develop a nuclear consultative group to discuss planning issues. Kim Yo-jong warned staging nuclear war exercises and assets in the Korean peninsula would lead to a stronger exercise of Pyongyang's right to self-defense. She says the world could be exposed to more serious danger. Coming up, in India, a rogue elephant kills 6 people. Texas law enforcers continue manhunt for shooter. And investors sue Adidas over Kanye-West partnership. Please stay. Mata ng Agila International will be back with more global news.
Mga kaono, simulan na natin ang Season 5. Woo! Let's go! Dahil bagong season, ay maraming bagong pranks at segments. Hi!
Kuya, para mo nga dito. Kaya ako sumabog yan.
Opo, tubig!
Get out! Basta kasama ko si Jowa, huwag kang ano ha. Oh, ay, kuya, sorry. Akala ko Jowa ako.
Cute na A. Anong mas malaki sa anaconda? Anong bansa ang bawal ang cesarean? Ano?
Sirit lang.
O, sirit. 1, 2, 3. Happy New Season sa inyong lahat.
Oh no! It's Biro only! Sa Net 25!
Hi mga ka-netizens! Ako po si Yo Andrada ng Anong Meron Kay Abok at Quezon City. For more live and updates, please don't forget to like and subscribe and comment sa Net25 TV.
Itong Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, ano ang may dudulot ng trade agreement na ito sa bansa? Makakasama ko si Department of Trade, Industry, Secretary Alfred Pascual. Lahat ng yan sa Counterpoint, Miyerkules, alas 10:30 ng gabi, dito sa Net25.
Check out na po.
Hindi ka pwede mag-check out, sir.
Mag-check out
niyo ko.
Eh, hindi ka pa nag-check-in, mag-check out ka na. Ano ang pangyayaring hindi magandang iyong pinagdaanan?
Nagmahal po. Iniwan din po ako.
Isang beses ka lang ba niloko? Ilang beses?
Isa lang po.
Hindi mo ba alam kung ilang beses ako niloko?
Ilan po?
Ang ating game ay merong cardboard. Yung ping pong i-golf mo sa isushoot doon sa butas na yon.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders, Quezon City Motor Vehicle Inspection Center.
A wild tusker elephant in India that has killed at least 6 people has been captured by forest officials. The male elephant has an infamous reputation for raiding shops selling rice and grain in the southern state of Kerala. The fugitive or animal in custody has been named Arikomban, which translates as rice tusker. On Sunday, a team of 150 forest officers caught the elephant. Officials hit it with 5 tranquilizer shots. It has been or since been fitted with a GPS collar and taken to a wildlife reserve. This is not the first time officials tried to capture the elephant. Arikomban eluded escape 6 years ago despite being shot with tranquilizer darts. Conservationists blame the rapid expansion of human settlements around forests and wildlife corridors for an increase in conflicts between people and animals. An armed attack over the weekend in Ecuador's main port of Guayaquil leaves at least 10 people dead. The city, which is an economic hub in the South American country, is under a state of emergency due to drug-related violence. The attack happened Sunday night after gunfire erupted at a mechanic shop in the city. Bodies could be seen lying on the sidewalk in pools of blood. 2 other people suffered gunshot wounds during this encounter. A witness says a group of assailants on motorcycles opened fire on the group who had been drinking in the area. These killings are the latest in a recent surge of violence from a turf war between gangs. The port city's position on the Pacific coast makes it a strategic launch point for shipments of drugs to the U.S. and Europe. Eleven people have died from a gas leak in an industrial accident in India. The accident happened Sunday in an industrial area in the northern state of Punjab. The victims included 5 women and 6 other victims, including 2 boys aged 10 and 13. 4 other people have been taken to hospital. The National Disaster Response Force and police officers are on the scene. Authorities are still trying to determine the cause of the leak and the type of gas involved. Industrial gas leaks are common in India, often due to poor safety standards and insufficient health checks. Residents in the area have been evacuated and police have sealed off the area until further notice. Reports suggest that gas may have spread from manholes. Texas law enforcement has been having difficulty finding a gunman who fled after killing a family of 5 and injuring 3 in a rural Texas town. Francisco Oropesa, 38 years old, is considered armed and dangerous after fleeing San Jacinto County last Friday. The suspect, armed with an AR-15 style rifle, conducted a series of horrific execution-style shootings. Authorities have been able to identify Oropesa with an identity card issued by Mexican authorities to citizens who reside outside the country, as well as doorbell camera footage. The authorities have offered $80,000 in total reward money in hopes of motivating people to come forward with information on the suspect's whereabouts. Investigators found clothes and a phone while combing a rural area that includes dense layers of the forest, but tracking dogs have lost the scent. The police are going door to door looking for the suspect. Armed robbers raided the luxury jewelry boutique Bulgari in Paris in broad daylight, making off with an estimated several million euros worth of items. 3 people arrived on 2 motorbikes Two were carrying long weapons and hit a security guard. The full extent of the haul and damage is still being assessed. The Bulgari shop has been targeted by armed robbers before, with jewelry worth 10 million euros taken less than 2 years ago. On that occasion, one of the perpetrators was shot in the leg by police and later convicted. Jeffrey Epstein's newly revealed private calendar showed scheduled meetings with prominent pillars of the Western landscape. New documents showed planned meetings with a slew of prominent individuals, including CIA Director William Burns, Bard College President Leon Botstein, Goldman Sachs top lawyer Catherine Rumler, and world-renowned linguistics expert Noam Chomsky. All the scheduled meetings were slated to take place after Epstein was jailed in 2008 on charges of solicitation. The documents show Epstein was planning on Rumler joining him for a trip to Paris and other visit to his controversial private island in the Caribbean. Epstein was found dead in a jail cell in New York City while he was awaiting a trial on sex trafficking charges. Investors have filed a class action suit against Adidas. They allege the company knew about Kanye West's problematic behavior for years before ending the partnership. Rapper Kanye West, now known as Ye, partnered with Adidas in November of 2013. Yeezy shoes debuted in February of 2015 and surged in popularity. Ye came under fire in 2018 after saying slavery was a choice. Adidas did not end the partnership until October of 2022 after Ye made anti-Semitic remarks. In response to the lawsuit, Adidas says the claims are unfounded, adding it will take all necessary measures to vigorously defend itself. Ye was not made a party to the lawsuit. Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba Group, has been invited to become a visiting professor at Tokyo College, an organization run by the University of Tokyo. He is expected to contribute to providing advice on research topics and giving lectures on entrepreneurship and innovation. This move follows Ma's largely public absence after he criticized Chinese regulators in 2020 and Ant Group, an Alibaba affiliate, had to pull its planned initial public offering. Ma's new position indicates a possible shift away from business ventures and a return to teaching, a profession he previously held before becoming an entrepreneur. Ma has long-standing ties to Japan, and his appointment comes as he accepts other honorary positions in Hong Kong and elsewhere. Breaking news, Labor Day protests and strikes have taken over France. Police used stun grenades and water cannons to disperse the demonstrators, but the protesters hit the French authorities with firebombs. Police say they expect between 500,000 and 650,000 people to take to the streets today. Reports say 100,000 demonstrators are on their way to Paris to strike. Workers and labor unions continue to vent their anger against President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform. Thanks to this winter snow, Lake Mead's water level is expected to rise 33 feet this year, which is very good news for Arizona and Nevada residents, a lot higher than expected. Anna Cui tells us more.
The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation recently released its April 24-month study, and it brings good news to Lake Mead, thanks to the above-average snowpack level and projected runoff in the Colorado River Basin this spring. Lake Mead's elevation is set to rise 33 feet higher than expected, with a projected level of 1,068 feet by the end of the year. According to the report, water flow from Lake Powell to Lake Mead will be increased to up to 9.5 million acre-feet, and that is up from 7 million acre-feet as previously planned. Due to severe drought conditions for the past several years, water managers have had to make adjustments to the monthly releases from Glen Canyon Dam, which holds back water from the Colorado River, forming Lake Powell. These adjustments kept Lake Powell from dropping to a critical low and also affected the amount of water that would typically flow downstream to Lake Mead. As of this report, the water level at Lake Mead is at around 1,049 feet, still about 180 feet below capacity. Reclamation Commissioner Camille Kalimlim Tuton said this winter's snowpack is promising and provides the opportunity to help replenish Lakes Mead and Powell in the near term. But she also said that the reality is that drought conditions in the Colorado River Basin have been more than 2 decades in the making. The average snowpack in the upper Colorado Basin is 154% as of this report. That's more than doubled compared to about 75% at this time last year. In Las Vegas, Anna Cui reporting for Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up, Germany launches new discount travel card. In Costa Rica, scientists hope sloth antibiotics will contribute to human medicine. And world-class concerts grace the Philippine arena. Catch the latest in business, sports, and entertainment when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Abangan sa Counterpoint. Ano ba itong Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership? Ano ang may dudulot ng trade agreement na ito sa bansa? Makakasama ko si Department of Trade and Industry Secretary Alfred Pascual. Lahat ng yan sa Counterpoint, Merkules alas 10:30 ng gabi dito sa Net 25.
Sa dami ng problema, parang ang hirap ng huminga, di ba? Minsan, pakiramdam mo, hopeless na. Kaya dapat ihayag ang saloobin, himayin ang hinaing, alamin ang pwedeng gawin. Mag-reality check tayo.
Tingin ang real talk ng bayan. Panalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's stand together sa Net 25.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Germany launches a new flat-rate public transport ticket valid across the country. But the 49 euro price point has raised doubts about the pass's potential impact. Policymakers hope the monthly pass will bring some relief for consumers amid soaring inflation. They encourage people to favor mass transit in the name of the environment. The Deutschland ticket offers unlimited access to Germany's bus and metro systems, as well as local and regional trains. Only long-distance high-speed services are not included. Interest in the pass was understandably great, with 52 million people signing up for the offer. But many commuters who live far from the city or the city center do not have rail infrastructure that could replace the car. The Transport Ministry has not ruled out a price increase in the future to ensure the travel pass remains financially viable. U.S. financial authorities took possession of the First Republic Bank and sold it to J.P. Morgan Chase. First Republic is the second largest bank by assets to collapse in U.S. history. The bank has been in free fall. Last week, it disclosed that it lost more than $100 billion in deposits in the first quarter, causing its shares to plummet. J.P. Morgan Chase acquired all of First Republic's deposits and substantial majority of its assets. Chase shares rose 2.6% after the news broke. 84 First Republic offices in 8 U.S. states will reopen as branches of J.P. Morgan Chase Bank. Rating agency Fitch has downgraded France's sovereign credit rating, warning that public resistance to a recent pension reform could take a toll on the economy. The agency lowered the rating from AA to AA- with a stable outlook. The downgrade means France is considered a more risky venture for investors, which could lead to higher borrowing costs. Fitch says that social and political pressures illustrated by the protests against the pension reform will complicate fiscal consolidation. It adds that the government's decision to bypass a parliamentary vote to push through the pension reform will likely further strengthen radical and anti-establishment forces. The fur of Costa Rican sloths appears to harbor antibiotic-producing bacteria. Scientists hope the fur may hold a solution to the growing problem of superbugs. Research shows that sloth fur hosts communities of insects, algae, fungi, and bacteria, among other microbes, some of which pose disease risks. Yet the mammals appear to be surprisingly infection-proof. Researchers at the University of Costa Rica studied sloth fur and found the possible existence of antibiotic-producing bacteria. There is a long road ahead in determining whether the sloth compounds could be useful to humans. But scientists have a bright outlook for the future of medicine. In Japan, there is a unique cafe and it is staffed by robots. But this is more than just a gimmick, as it helps people who are disabled and bedridden. Dawn Cafe started as a pop-up cafe in 2018, but due to positive feedback, it now has a permanent outpost in Tokyo's Nihonbashi district. The robot servers in Dawn, or Diverse Avatar Working Network, are operated remotely by people who are unable to leave their homes or beds due to severe health disabilities, such as paralysis and other illnesses or conditions that cause them to be bedridden. The workers are called pilots, and the robots are their avatars, controlled by a tablet, mouse, or a gaze-controlled remote. The pilots can also communicate with the customers through the robot's built-in speaker. Dawn won the grand prize in the Good Design Awards in 2021 during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic for giving persons with disabilities an opportunity to earn an income and to ease their loneliness. Attendees discover the latest trends at the LA Health and Fitness Expo. Here, the event presents the wellness benefits exercise provides to both the body and the mind. In Los Angeles, California, Eva and Alan, or Eva Basayahe with the report.
The 2023 Health and Fitness Expo at Dodger Stadium opens up for workout enthusiasts and those looking to begin their fitness journey.
I think going in the expo, I'll probably be enticed to buy some of the shirts and stuff. Probably not the bigger ticket items. I feel pretty good about the gear that I have, but certainly excited to try the food and the drinks and some of the kind of health and wellness products that are there. So we'll see. I'm open to whatever they have to offer, but yeah, excited for the merch. Fitness, I think, is important mostly for longevity, I would say, but also just kind of to test your limits, kind of to see what you can do. It's amazing how many people are here, different body types, different abilities, but I think it's really inspiring to be around so many different people that all value movement and fitness, probably for different reasons. For me personally, it's a lot about health and wellness, physical health, but also mental health. And I just like a challenge.
You're going to see the craziest people that do. That's why this environment's so much fun, because you meet people from all around the world, from totally different walks of life that are all here. You've got some amazing sponsors here, that it's really fun to shop around, get some new gear. Fitness, at least in my own experience, has helped me get out of some dark situations mentally, emotionally, even, financially. It just, anytime I'm having a bad day or things are just not going the way I want them to, if I go into the gym or do any sort of physical activity, when I'm done with that, everything in the world seems a little easier. Lighter, I should say that. Everything just seems a little lighter. That's super important in our lives. For human beings, we've got these amazing bodies. We've got to use them for something. And that doesn't mean, not have any more fun or anything like that. But the more you think about it, the worse it gets. You just got to put your feelings aside, get into the gym, get outside, and you'll watch your life starts to change. I mean, it's amazing what it can do.
Families came to check out the latest fitness gear, health aids, and of course, grab some samples. Because what would an expo be without freebies to stuff your bag with? Reporting from Los Angeles, California, Eva Basayahe from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
It is a busy weekend for the Premier League as Manchester City takes the top spot while Newcastle and Manchester United battle for top 4. From London, England, Keith Di Mabuyo tells us more.
Erling Haaland scored his 50th goal of the season on Sunday as Manchester City beat Fulham to return to the Premier League summit, with Newcastle and Manchester United winning to close in on a top 4 finish. Liverpool maintained their unlikely pursuit of a Champions League place by beating Tottenham 4-3 in a thriller, but Southampton and Leeds are staring into the abyss. City's 2-1 win at Craven Cottage left Pep Guardiola's men a point clear of longtime leaders Arsenal with a game in hand. Treble-chasing City, on top for the first time in 10 weeks, have won their past 8 league games and are unbeaten in their past 18 matches in all competitions. In the later kickoff, Liverpool hit managerless Tottenham with a 3-goal blitz in the first 15 minutes, but the visitors stormed back and Richarlison scored an improbable equaliser in the 93rd minute. Just when it seemed that Spurs had grabbed the dramatic point, Diogo Jota won the game, leaving the Reds in 5th spot, 7 points behind 4th place Manchester United, having played a game more. Arsenal host struggling Chelsea on Tuesday, with City at home to West Ham the following day. From the United Kingdom, this is Keith Di Mabuyo for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on points.
Many noticed that the world's largest indoor arena, the Philippine Arena, is patronized by the biggest names in the entertainment industry. After the performances of famous K-pop group 17 and Blackpink and English songwriter Harry Styles, the award-winning Filipino-American singer Bruno Mars and 5-member Korean group Tomorrow X Together are slated to perform at the venue within the year. Grammy Award winner Bruno Mars' supposed one-night concert in the arena is now getting an encore performance scheduled for June 24 and 25. Today, TXT announced that they will be returning to the country for their act, Sweet Mirage Tour, on August 13. Many fans are excited because the country has the Philippine Arena, attracting various artists to visit the Philippines. With 55,000 as its seating capacity, this makes Philippine Arena a choice venue for various artists. P-pop boy group SB19 will drop a new single this month ahead of their highly anticipated extended player EP, Pagtatag. The announcement signals the second chapter to a trilogy following their first EP, Pagsibol. SB19 promises their most sonically adventurous EP yet in Pagtatag, featuring 6 tracks. It will explore new music styles that will surely excite their fans. Pagtatag releases on June 9. Indie bookstores stacking up in today's marketplace against big online competitors. As we celebrate Independent Bookstore Day, we ask around to find out how small booksellers still keep their appeal to readers. Joanne Soriano reports.
20 years ago, people predicted that big box booksellers would decimate smaller neighborhood shops. And what people didn't buy from the big chains, they would simply order online. Convenience and cheap books would put the indies out of business. Or so the experts thought. And for a while that happened. In the early part of the 21st century, hundreds of reading retailers closed their doors. Then, something unexpected happened. By 2009, independent bookstores began popping up in neighborhoods. What is behind this revival? Asena Baran says she frequents independent booksellers for the atmosphere.
So I actually really enjoy the bookstore experience. So it's really not about the book, it's about coming to the bookstore and going through the stacks.
Another customer, Rafael, also prefers to buy his books from a brick-and-mortar establishment instead of online.
Because you can feel the book. It's like a sensorial contact. It's different to just seeing the screen.
Asena says it's important to support independent book retailers.
Because it is a part of culture and it helps give people access who otherwise would not have access to books. Not only just give access, but also give a location where people can congregate and have space to get together.
For Judith Lowry, a partner at Argosy Bookstore in Midtown Manhattan, independent bookstores have the advantage of being able to offer specialty products.
We sell secondhand and rare books. Some of them are 19th century books and earlier. Some are books that have gone out of print a few years ago, but you can't get them from the publisher any longer.
Judith also said the store has witnessed an increase in customers since the pandemic.
An increase in customers. Interestingly, we have more women customers. Collectors used to be thought of as old men, but we find a lot of younger women now are book collectors, which is nice.
Bookstores are on the rise and reclaiming their space among the big box and internet book retailers. In New York, Joanne Soriano from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Well, it's Monday, and to help you start the week, here's a quote from civil rights leader and Nobel Peace Prize recipient Martin Luther King Jr. No work is insignificant. All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. So on this day, hats off to those who have really worked hard to affect change and positive change in society. I hope you had a restful Labor Day. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Nina Richielago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International, Trusted Connected on Point.